Let me guess. Is HTC in the house? I thought so. Oh, what an enthusiastic crowd we have here this morning, so thank you. It is so great to be here, not in Albany. Love Albany, great city, but here we are with incredible accomplishments that I cannot wait to share with all of you, because you are the people that were in our hearts and in our minds when we put together this budget to help lift up all New Yorkers, but particularly the working men and women of our state. So that's what... Thank you. And so, let me tell you who some of the extraordinary leaders we have with us here today, starting with the president of the New York State AFL-CIO, Mario Cilento, has joined us. Someone who's familiar to all of you, Rich Maroko, the president of Hochul. Rich, I think you're more popular than me. It's all right, it's all right. We also have Gary LaBarbera, the president of the Building Trades Council of Greater New York. Gary, great friend. Henry Garrido, the executive director of DC 37. Rebecca Damon, the executive director of SAG-AFTRA. John Ford from IATSE is here joining us as well. And you'll be hearing from a young woman, Chandra Singh, who's going to talk about what this is all about to her and her family. So I want to give a shout out to Chandra Singh for joining us once again. And we have wonderful elected officials here today. We are joined all the way from Washington, D.C., Congressman Jerry Nadler. State Senator and Chair of the Senate Labor Committee, Jessica Ramos, has joined us. LaToya Joyner, the Assembly member and also Chair of the Assembly Labor Committee. I don't know if Brad Hoylman has come. Brad's on his way. Got the shortest commute. What the heck, Brad? This is your neighborhood. We'll forgive him. Also, we are joined by members of my administration, the one and only Commissioner of Labor, Roberta Reardon. And Suzanne Gustav, Miles Gustav, our acting commissioner of the New York State Office of Children and Family Services, has joined us here today. You know, when I'm in rooms like this, it makes me so proud to be the governor of one of the most labor-friendly, and the labor population here is the highest than any other state in the nation except for Hawaii. We'll let Hawaii have that one. I mean, that's all right. But we're number 2, and we're going to try harder. And so... But when I'm in a room, when I think about all of you, it takes me back to my own family's story. How my grandparents, my father's parents, grew up very, very poor in Ireland. They left as teenagers in search of a better life in America, like so many others, so many of you, so many of your families. And they found work. My grandpa was a migrant farm worker in the wheat fields of South Dakota. Then they got jobs as domestic servants in Chicago. And my grandparents, when they were young and married, they found their way to where they heard there were good jobs making steel in a place called Buffalo, New York. And that's why I'm from Buffalo. But I know, let's go Bills. The Jets are looking good. The Giants, okay. Let's talk about that next fall, okay? But I know being a member of a labor union, and the dignity of that paycheck meant to my own family. It lifted them from poverty to the middle class. We benefited from fantastic public schools, and ultimately those poor grandparents became the grandparents of a woman governor in the state of New York. That's the story I want available to all of us, that they can be lifted out of their circumstances with a good union card from all the great unions that I'm proud to represent here in the state of New York. So my gratitude goes to the labor leaders who are out there rolling up their sleeves, fighting for you every single day, because we are joined in the same mission to help our people. It's that basic. And they were great allies during our budget process when they spoke about you and your needs and what you need to get by in these really tough circumstances. Life is hard here these days because of the cost of living just keeps going up and up and up. I mean, my God, the cost of eggs used to be one of the cheapest things you could buy. I'm a mom. I was making a lot of things with eggs and milk and had to buy diapers and formula a long time ago. These are stresses on families. When the prices go up and the most dreaded hour of the week is when they have to open up the bills that come in. How am I going to pay the rent? How am I going to pay my utilities? Maybe you're paying for your kids' school. It's really hard out there. And everything's going up. It's no fault of anybody. It's called inflation. I remember when I was starting out, young married life, everything was expensive too. But all of a sudden, things like just turned upside down. You thought you were getting ahead, but the bills keep getting higher and higher. And you know who's hit the hardest? Members of our great communities. We're so diverse. Our black and brown communities hit hard. A lot of single moms trying to make ends meet. They're hit hard, working hard by the day and trying to figure out how to pay the bills with their kids at night. So these aren't just statistics you talk about. You talk about inflation going up. These are real people being hurt. And to me, that's what motivates me. That's what gets me up in the morning. That's what brings me to the Capitol to work hard on a budget that I needed to deliver for all New Yorkers. And so, you're going to hear from Chandra Singh in a couple of minutes, what it's like to be a working mom. She works at the Mandarin Hotel, works really hard. She's got a couple of daughters she raised, and she'll tell her story. But it is people like Chandra and countless others that are the story behind the numbers of a budget and the policies in a budget that we delivered with our members of the legislature. And I'm so grateful to all of them for working with me, pulling together, saying it's not about us, it's about the people of this state. So let's talk about some of that. Let's talk about that. Thank you. So let's talk about young families. Families have it hard. I just saw my grandbaby. She's 1 year old. And I saw the cost of diapers, and I could not believe how expensive it is. I can't wait till she's potty trained. It's going to help the young family, my son's family. But I knew that children, families with kids under the age of 5, they were not entitled to a tax credit that's available for families with 5-year-olds and up. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. The most expensive time is when they're outgrowing their clothes every 6 months, the baby food, the formula, the diapers, everything you have to buy, and those families were left behind. So I said, no more, no more. As a result of our legislation, as a result of our budget, now families with kids from infants all the way on up to high school are going to be able to benefit from a tax credit that will help give them extra money in their pockets to pay for the milk and pay for the eggs and pay for the electric bill. So let's give that a round of applause. Also, thank you. Also, a lot of you take the MTA, right? All right. I've taken the MTA a lot. Sometimes I'm wearing a baseball hat, ponytail, a pair of jeans. You probably don't recognize me a lot, but I'm out there. I'm watching things. But we also want to make sure we can start finding a pathway to cut the cost of rides. and keeping the fare increases as low as possible, keep more money in your pockets. But also, we are launching, and I thank the legislature for their perseverance in getting this over the finish line. We are starting a pilot program to see what even free buses could do for our people. So you don't have to worry about that. So we're launching 1 bus route per borough. Let's get started with 5. We're going to study this. But you know what? This might just be the way to go. So let's start the process now. Let's start the process. The cost of housing. The cost of housing. I'm trying to help you, my friends, and we'll get something done. We have to build more housing overall, and we're going to come back at it again. But in the meantime, a lot of our families and friends in NYCHA housing, they weren't eligible for the pandemic money that was there to help people who got behind their rent. I mean, you're told the place you're working is shut down because of the pandemic. You have no money coming in. And some people were eligible for federal and state money to help pay the back rent so you didn't get trapped in this cycle. But it wasn't available to our public housing residents in NYCHA. So the money wasn't coming into those buildings to help with repairs and making sure that we fix the elevators and the broken lights and all the other things that are going on. So our budget also said, okay, it's not their fault. Let's lift them up. And as a result, we're having almost $400 million set aside for emergency rental assistance for these individuals so they can get their heads above water. All these things we're doing, we're helping with utility rent relief, we're helping all kinds of services. You're going to find more. Well, let me tell you one more thing I said. Before we leave town, and we'll find ways to get more money back in your pockets. But how about a pay increase for all New Yorkers, starting with raising the minimum wage? Let's raise the minimum wage. That's how you lift people up. That's how you lift them up. So the budget raises the minimum wage downstate up to $17 an hour by 2026, upstate $16 an hour. But one more thing I said, and I thank the legislator, I thank Andrea Stewart-Cousins, the majority leader of the Senate, and I thank Carl Heastie, the Speaker of the Assembly, because we worked hard together, and they represented the voices of the people in their conferences. We said we have to do this. We also said one more thing. If inflation keeps going up, all of a sudden, even a pay increase gets sucked away, right? It doesn't. So going forward, after we get to this $17 an hour, we're going to index it to inflation. Inflation goes up, your paycheck goes up. And that's what we're going to do. I will close with one thought. I am blessed to be the governor of the state. I'm also blessed to live in a home that was once occupied by Franklin Delano Roosevelt before he became the President of the United States. He was our governor. He was our governor. And he said something that stuck with me. The test of our progress is not whether we add more to the abundance for those who have much. It's whether we provide enough for those who have too little. The ones who have too little, the ones who need our help. And that's what we're called to do. That's our responsibility. That is why I believe many of us are called to public service. Many of us are called to be union leaders. Many of us are called just to be out there on the front lines helping people. And that's what you do every single day. And I am grateful for the role you play and the role that unions play in lifting up our people, lifting up their circumstances, ultimately lifting up their spirits and letting them know that this is a place of opportunity. is a place of new beginnings, a place that we cherish and love, but we're going to make it even better, make it greater than we've ever imagined before. So I thank you for the privilege of being your governor, being able to work with you on this and so many more initiatives we head into the future with that sense of we can do this, but we have to take out and look up for those who have so little. Thank you, my friends, and with that, with that, let me bring to the podium one of the greatest labor leaders in the history of our state, Mario Cilento.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you. I appreciate it. First and foremost, it's great to see this wonderful crowd here today. And first, I want to thank everyone here from the Hotel and Gaming Trades Council for hosting us today. And I want to thank your president, Rich Maroko. Rich, thank you for letting us use your house today. Thank you. You know, seeing members from public sector unions and private sector unions and building trades unions makes me think, you know, for the labor movement, we have always held on to one old adage, one old saying: actions speak louder than words. Today's about actions, deeds and actions, and results. Raising and indexing the minimum wage, having record amount of money for child care in this state so we can take care of our children, protections in climate and jobs moving forward. Those are real results. They are tangible. And you know what it means? It means that on these issues, the voice of labor was heard. Because in this state, we are union strong. What are we? Union strong. Union strong. You know, you take raising and indexing the minimum wage, and it means that every day minimum wage earners in this state are going to be a little better off, take care of themselves and their families, pay their bills, pay their rent, feed and clothe their children, with the feeling of accomplishment you get from being able to support yourself and your family on those earnings, right? Knowing, as the governor said, over the next 3 years, we're going to have a 13% increase for them, and then it'll be increased and indexed. And what does that mean? It means that never again in this state will minimum wage earners have to go 5 years or 6 years or sometime 9 years in the past without a wage increase, right? This is historic. And everyone in this room, your voices were heard in Albany. And we have to remember, when minimum wage earners do well, most of the time their money goes right back into the local economy. They have to spend it, right? They have to go to their local businesses in their communities. But that means that local businesses prosper as a result of what we're doing here today, so they're going to do better. That's great, because when workers do better, when businesses do better, it means we have more money in our tax base to help our public sector brothers and sisters. It means that this state can provide all of the services that we rely on: healthcare, education, transportation, sanitation, law enforcement, firefighters, everything, which means that 19 million New Yorkers have a better life because of what we're doing here today. We are raising the standard of living and quality of life for 19 million New Yorkers. Because why? Because labor's voice was heard. And when it comes to child care, I'll end with this. We're saying I have 3 daughters. They are 20, 18, and my youngest turned 13 yesterday, and I said, you know, that makes me technically an old man now, right? Your youngest is a teenager, you're old, and I get it. I am. It's done. I'm done. But I will say this. Now, they keep telling me it's true. It's so you can see the gray hair, right? The reality is this. I know as a parent for my wife and myself that the health and the safety and the well-being of my daughters is more important than anything in the world. And that goes for any parent, any guardian, anybody who has children in their home. And to be able to supply affordable and accessible child care with trained professionals to take care of your children when you go to work every day, what that means is there are men and women who are now deciding, do we continue on public assistance, or can I go out there and get a job to support myself and my family? The sense of accomplishment you get when you earn your wages to support your family? Do I go back into the workforce and have that feeling of accomplishment, to be part of this economy and be a productive member of society? They can now because of what Governor Hochul has put forward in her budget, and we thank you for that, Governor. Good. I'll end with this. Remember, it's very good. When there are more of us, again, in this economy who are working and going out there, we all prosper and we all benefit. And that leads me to the thank you part of what I want to say. You know, Governor, it has been a priority of the New York State AFL-CIO, of the labor movement in this state, for more than 30 years to index the minimum wage. I know that because I've been here for 31 years. The discussion on indexing began in your proposal in the state budget. And I remember you called me in December and said, Mario, this is what we're going to do. We are going to index the minimum wage in this state to make life a little easier for those at the bottom end of the pay scale. And Governor, that's about deeds and actions. It's not just about words. And when we talk about childcare and your commitment to working men and women to allow them to have that peace of mind that you have, right, when your children are left behind and you leave them for the day. Again, Governor, that's your budget. And on behalf of 2.5 million men and women and family members of the labor movement in the state of New York, on behalf of working men and women from Buffalo to Brooklyn to Long Island and everywhere in between, Governor, we say thank you for keeping your word, thank you for making history, and thank you for raising the standard of living and quality of life for all New Yorkers. Let's hear it for Governor Hochul. And I do want to make mention, we have our two labor chairs here, Jessica Ramos and LaToya Joyner. And let me just say, I know Anthony Simone is here as well. Let me just say, I know that throughout this process, you put your heart and your soul into this fight. And you brought your message to the streets, and you gathered the support of your colleagues. And I just want to say to each and every one of you, thank you from the bottom of our hearts for having and being part of this family. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, LaToya. Thank you. And I do want to acknowledge Assemblymember Tony Simone, who's also here, and we thank you as well. And with that, I have the great honor of introducing my friend. You know, Gary LaBarbera is probably, I've said this in many speeches, he's probably the most loyal person I know outside of my wife. I hope. And I hope. And I just want to say that the responsibility of running the New York City and New York State Building Trades Council would be daunting for most people, but not for Gary. He's taken the challenge head on, and we are a better movement because of it. So it is my honor and privilege to introduce to you the President of the New York State Building Trades Council, Gary LaBarbera.
All right, wow, thank you, Mario, thank you very much. First of all, good morning, and I have to tell you, brothers and sisters, you are alive this morning, boy, I tell you. Wow. The energy in this room is incredible. So, I mean, it's just an honor for me, a pleasure to be here to say a few words on behalf of the building trades. And I just want to say one thing before I get started. I want to tell you that the Hotel Trades Council, all of you, I stay in a lot of hotels, right? And I'm going to tell you something. No one does it better than the New York City Hotel Trades Council. No one, nowhere. HTC. You're the best they are. The best they are. So, let me just say a few words, and again, it's an honor and a privilege for me to be here. You know, one of the things that I noticed this morning, when the governor and Mario spoke about the importance of child care and the child care tax credit. First of all, I also want to thank the governor and the legislature for including $375,000 in this budget for a building trades child care program. Now, why do I say this? I want you to realize something, that entrance into the workplace is very complicated these days for young couples. And many of the young couples, both mom and dad, have to work. And child care is a priority, and it's difficult, right? And we focus primarily on women, right? And I want to point something out, which is the right thing. I want to point something out. Today, if you really look at up here and you look at the leadership, we have a woman governor, we have a woman labor chair in the Assembly, and a woman labor chair in the New York State Senate. So let's give it up for the women. They have earned their rightful place in leadership. 100%. So again, the indexing of the minimum wage is really an incredible accomplishment. And I thank Governor Hochul for making this a priority in her budget. And why is it so important? Because organized labor has always been the backbone of the middle class. Always. And organized labor has always fought for all working people. That's why we have a 40-hour work week. That's why we have weekends. That's why we have Social Security. That's why we have Medicare. That's why it's the union movement and organized labor that has built this country and built this state. 100%. 100%. Union! 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 100%, brothers and sisters. 100%. Love it. Love it. Now, the other thing, we've mentioned the child care, we've mentioned the indexing of the minimum wage. I would be remiss if I don't mention something else. And I have to mention what the governor has done, her priority in terms of climate resiliency and addressing climate change. This budget, there are things in the budget, cap and invest, decarbonization of buildings, on and on and on. We were able, with the governor's support and ultimately the legislature's support, to have the strongest labor standards anywhere else in the United States of America. We did it in New York. We did it first, and we did it best. Union! Love it, love it, love it. So, in closing, again, I want to acknowledge our great woman governor for all you have done for working people in this state. I want to acknowledge all of our elected officials, and it is now my pleasure to introduce a real personal friend of mine, another outstanding, dedicated, committed union leader, and let me tell you, representing tens of thousands of municipal workers that keep New York City moving, Henry Garrido.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. My cousins, brothers and sisters, are sitting over there. Thank you. I don't know who negotiated this deal that I got to go after Gary. We're going to have to talk about that. But I will say this. When I say union, you say strong. Union. Strong. Union. Strong. When I say labor, you say power. Labor. Power. Labor. Power. Great. Yeah. So, you know, the governor's right. She mentioned New York State. It's the largest, more dense state of union density in the country. And New York is behind Hawaii, but Hawaii doesn't really count, right? Unless you're on vacation or something, right? Nobody should be putting pineapple on a pizza. I'm sorry. But the reason why we're the strongest is not because we have the most unionized labor workforce in the country. The reason why New York is number one is because we stood up for the right issues right here for all working people, whether union or not. Right? So I had the privilege to negotiate one of the best contracts that we had that was ratified by 98% of my membership in March. Thank you to the membership. Covering hundreds of thousands of city workers. And that contract already had a minimum wage above what was being negotiated. Because for many of the union people we represent, that minimum wage already has been above, right? Because we've done well with the union contract. We negotiated a child care fund that benefit our members, which was great. But we could have stayed home after March, after we negotiated this great contract that our members were happy about. But that's not who we are. That is not what we're about. We had to stand up for working people, whether they were in a union or not, because they deserve justice. They deserve a minimum wage that reflect what we have. And we stood up to fight for a budget that was fair for them, to fight for a budget that reflected child care needs, that reflected transportation, that reflected housing, because that's who we are in New York. You know, the other day I was at a farmer's market with my wife, and we needed eggs, and the carton of eggs was like $11, I kid you not. And I turned to my wife and I said to her, maybe we should start buying chickens. And I'm Dominican, you know, I'm really serious, right? Like, so she said to me, she said, are you gonna clean after the chickens? So I took my debit card and paid for it and went out. But I kept thinking about how many people are struggling to buy simple eggs, right? Cereal for their children, milk. The way the cost of living is going is shameful. Working people have never had to struggle as much as they have now. The same heroes that were called essential during the pandemic are threatened right now to not be able to put food on the table because of the cost of living and the inflation. But as big, as strong as labor is, we need champions. We need champions because a budget is a statement of values. And we have a governor who stood up for working people. And governor, we're going to stand up for you, and we're going to have your back for as long as you're there, because you demonstrated that it's not just the talk, but you walk the walk with our working people. We thank you for it. So say with me, Kathy, one more time. Kathy, 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 and let me just say, to conclude, I would be remiss if I didn't thank the chairs, the champions also on the state legislature, Senator Jessica Ramos and Assemblymember Antonio Jones. Give it up for them. Brothers and sisters, this is a historic moment for New York because labor stood up with our champions, with our governor, and we helped deliver a budget that reflected the values that we have stood for many, many years. And we got something historic. And that could not have happened without you. Without you, without making calls and lobbying and rallying, without your strength, because we are union leaders, but we are nothing without you, without your participation, without your commitment, and without your service to the city of New York. So on behalf of the working men and women that work for District Council 37, 150,000 strong that make this city run, I can say it with pride. Union strong, are we not? 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 And my last part of the job is to introduce someone that I think you know, you might know, right? When this gentleman was elected, we formed a partnership along with DC 37, 32 BJ, Hotel Trace Council, and created a Labor Strong that have delivered real results in elections for the city of New York, because we believe candidates had to also deliver for working people. So I have the distinct honor to introduce somebody you may know here, my brother, Rich Maroko. Give it up.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. It's great to see so many smiling faces out there today. Look, I love you too. Look, let me start by saying what an honor it is to have here joining us in the House of HTC, our governor, Kathy Hochul. And look, I am grateful for the opportunity to highlight some of the really game-changing provisions in the state budget that are going to make a huge difference not only in the lives of our members, but in the lives of all working people across the state. And look, we all know here it was a contentious budget process. But that's because the subjects that were being discussed and debated had such a profound impact on so many people that live in this state, and particularly on the working families of New York. Right? And it was contentious because our leaders, and most notably our governor, they are passionate and dedicated to moving policies and initiatives that benefit working people. And that's who we need in office, leaders like Kathy Hochul. And that contention should be commended, because we are at a critical moment in our state where we need bold initiatives to help us navigate the challenges that we're going to face. And the leading challenges, at least for working people, that we have are affordable child care, a funded mass transit agency, a minimum wage that reflects the reality that working people are facing, and of course, the security and expenses of housing. That is a problem that all of us face in our day-to-day lives. And Governor Hochul identified all of these issues, and she made audacious proposals to address and fix each and every one of them. Right? So instead of passing a budget that would pay the bills and keep the lights on, she addressed those issues, those financial concerns that keep working people up at night. And because she cares about working people, this budget provides for an increase in the minimum wage. It provides funding for our subway systems. And most important, it expands access to subsidized child care and the child care tax credit. Right? And look, I can't emphasize how important the improvements around access to child care are, because child care is not an option for most working New Yorkers. Without child care, we can't work. And if we can't work, we can't earn a living. But the cost of child care has been skyrocketing, right? Right now in New York, the cost of child care exceeds the cost of tuition at a four-year college, right? That is just beyond reach for most of us. And that lack of access to affordable child care, who does it affect most? Working women and people of color, right? And so Governor Hochul's child care initiative and her budget go a long way to addressing child care and expanding access to affordable child care to all working people, which prevents them from falling into poverty. So, enough about budget, and I promise I'm not going to talk about Hawaiian pizza or the cost of eggs. Instead, what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to say, Governor Hochul, and to the leaders of the labor committees in both of the houses, thank you. Thank you on behalf of the Hotel Trades Council. Thank you on behalf of our members for passing a budget that is going to make real and tangible changes to the lives of millions of New Yorkers. And thank you for delivering all of those wins for working people in the budget. And I'm just going to close with this. Can I get an HTC thank you to Governor Hochul for what she's done? Now, it is finally my privilege to be able to introduce Chandra Singh. She is a turn-down attendant at the Mandarin and a proud member of our union and the person who's going to close things out. So can you all welcome Chandra? Chandra?
Hello and good morning. A warm and hearty welcome to each and every one of you who take the time off from your busy schedule to join us today to welcome our Governor, Kathy Hochul, our President, Rick Maroko, and the Labor Department. I want to say a special thanks again to each and every one of you. My name is Chandra Singh, and I have been a turn-down attendant at the Mandarin Oriental Hotel for the past 20 years. I am also a mother of 2 daughters who are grown up now. And I know at first hand how difficult it was to get childcare for them when they were little. And with the burden it is for young parents to find childcare while they work. The cost of childcare for parents who have to work full-time to support their family is often unaffordable. Many parents, especially those who don't have good union jobs, sometimes have to quit their employment because childcare options are so expensive. I am so thankful to the governor for fighting to make childcare less of a burden on working families. I know it's going to make life easier for many of my co-workers, my union brothers and sisters who have young children. Thank you, Governor Hochul, for looking out for parents, mothers, and working family, and thank you, everyone, for joining us at our Union Hall.
We love you too, everybody. Thanks for coming out today. Great to see you. Onward and upward.